Check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go!
And let's go. This is Ballsy Uncut for this Friday, July the 26th. A little cooler here in Regina, wherever you are taking in this show. However you're taking it in, I do appreciate it. For those of you that have followed me for a while, you know who I am. I'm Ballsy. For those of you that don't, the nickname's Ballsy. I am Michael Ball, been a broadcaster for 28 years. I consider this broadcasting still just a new, not the traditional way, the new way to do it. Covered the SJHL, currently the play-by-play voice of the Regina Pats on Access Now Sports. I'm going to also be the play-by-play voice for the Regina Thunder for 3 of their 4 regular season games and then some playoff games on Access Now, going back to my junior roots. For 18 of the 20 years covering Rough Rider football on the Rider Radio Network, I created and hosted the most comprehensive and detailed and longest broadcast in the CFL and right there in the NFL with the likes of the Green Bay Packers. I think that was the only broadcast that rivaled us back in the day from pillar to post from start to end. So I was proud of that. And in my last 2 years of broadcasting Rough Riders football as the voice of the Saskatchewan Rough Riders, this show is about all levels of sports, as you're going to see, and all different types of sports, as you're going to see today on the show and hear today on the show. But we're predominantly football-centric and 3-down-centric here on Ballsy Uncut. Wherever you're taking this in, I appreciate it. You can join us here at Ballsy Uncut on X, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and get in the chat rooms, and we will get to some of your chats. I sent out a link about 15 minutes before the show. If you want to interact and actually want to get on screen with me, just hit that link. And if you want to get on screen, just show me your camera and we can chit chat back and forth about what you think about the sporting news of the day and more specifically what you saw from the Rider game yesterday and what you think is going to happen in the CFL this week. There's lots of CFL and Rider news to get to. I got to start with this though, man. I'm disgusted. I am disgusted, and I'm happy I'm here so I could talk a little bit about something like this. I tuned in the Olympics. There are some Saskatchewan athletes at the Olympics representing Canada in track and in volleyball and some things like that. And I'm really looking forward to watching the athletes, or I was, till I watched the opening ceremonies. And I don't know, man, I might just boycott the whole damn thing. There are 2.4 billion Christians in the world. Okay. 2.4 billion. That might be a little bit low on the numbers, but right around there. And I watched the opening ceremonies and it was absolutely disgusting. I'm not going to go into it too much. You can replay it. You can go find it anywhere on social media now. But they openly mocked the Last Supper. They openly mocked the Last Supper. It's an absolute disgrace, an embarrassment. What a joke. They basically told Christians, F you, you're not welcome here at the Olympics. If this was anything else, if they were mocking, if it was the shoe was on the other foot and we were mocking Buddhism or Hindu people or, I don't know, transgender people, if we were mocking them, if those people were being mocked, they'd cancel the Olympics. But no, it's great. Let's laugh it up. Let's openly mock morals and values and Christianity. What a joke, man. What an absolute joke. And for that, I am not paying attention to the Olympics. If a Saskatchewan athlete happens to do well, I will definitely point out they did well. Other than that, I don't give a shit about the Olympics. They basically, I barely cared about them before. Couple of events, and there are some great athletes at the Olympics, no doubt about it. But that just turned me right off. What a joke. This show is brought to you by, and what I say in no way reflects any of the sponsors. All right. I'm say that to be straight up, but I don't, it's bullshit, man. It's absolute bullshit. I can't believe it. I retweeted the whole Last Supper mockery at The Real Ballsy. That's my personal account. You also can follow me with tweets at Ballsy Uncut. But yeah, you'll find it, and hopefully Whatever. You'll be offended. You won't be offended. I just find it ridiculous. This show is brought to you by District Brewing. Their Super Squeeze Seltzer Mango Lime or Passion Fruit Lime. Thanks to them for getting on board. Terry and the gang. Great group. My buddy Eric Cox is a server over there. He's done some social media work with me in the past. Ward Tire Craft, 101 Dudney Avenue. Tire and brake needs. Ask about their payment plans. I just went there today to get some golf shirts, a hat, and a hoodie. Thanks to Michael Barth and the gang for hooking me up. They do great work over there. They can service all your mechanical needs. And like I said, they got payment plans there. So like 90-day payment plans. Just go in and ask Michael Barth and the gang about that. All right, let's get to CFL news. And coming up here right away, we're going to hear from Dariusz Bladek. Dariusz was a former Rider offensive lineman, went to Toronto, won a Grey Cup actually in Saskatchewan in 2022, signed in the offseason with Ottawa. His Redblacks taking on the Calgary Stampeders, game number 2 of week number 8 in the CFL. Battle of 5-1 teams in Montreal yesterday. The Riders got out to a 16-3 lead, but would get outclassed in the second half and lose 20-16. Their second loss of the season. The Alouettes improve to 6-1. Riders drop to 5-2. This is what we call the Rider Rewind. So let's get to it. Some of the good things. Frankie Hickson gets on the roster, runs for 117 yards and a touchdown. It's going to be tough to take him off the roster. I bet you AJ Ouellette heals up quickly. As Manny Arsenault and I joked about in the Our Balls Are Bigger postgame show, you're injured, your backup comes in, and then he does well. All of a sudden, you're healing really fast. But it probably gives the Riders a little luxury now to sit him a little more, as Frankie Hickson looked good, not only out of the backfield, but, of course, as the mainstay running back for the Riders. And with regards to that, really like the right side of the offensive line for the Riders. Jacob Brammer, the Vanderbilt product's been real good. And Logan Furland has picked up his game this year after punching out that Edmonton dude in the first game, getting kicked out early. He and Brammer were road grading on the right side of that offensive line, where Frankie Hickson was finding a lot of success over there. Really like Shea Patterson's maturity. I mean, he's not shooting the lights out with his offensive production at the quarterback spot, but he's got good pocket presence. He can change. I said he had a wonky throwing motion in his first when he came off the bench, and then in his first start too. But he's got a different throwing motion, different arm angles. I thought on that last drive, Mitch Picton uncharacteristically goes out of bounds. But if Picton doesn't go out of bounds, he does a great job stepping up in the pocket, under pressure, slides to his left, gets a nice throw off to Picton, who's out of bounds. The Riders lose the game, but he's showing maturity. He's not running for his life. He's running out of the pocket, looking downfield, looking to make plays. So I like his maturity. On the other side of things, staying with the Riders, actually, defensively, like Micah Johnson, 2 quarterback sacks on a pitch count. The guy's a stud. And Anthony Lanier II was moved inside because of the way they had to juggle their roster yesterday. Inside, outside, he's a force. Knocked down a pass, blocked a field goal. Anthony Lanier II, also great. Micah Johnson, good too. On the Montreal side of things, Walter Fletcher is an outstanding weapon for the Owls. He was their best weapon on offense, while Caleb Evans was on the field at quarterback for the Alouettes, coming out of the backfield, running the football when he could, although the Riders' run defense was spectacular. But those swing passes are like stretch runs, and he can make a guy miss in a change room. I used to say a phone booth, but the kids under 25 wouldn't even know what the hell I'm talking about. So this guy could deke you out in a change room is the best way to put it. Also like Reggie White, the veteran receiver who earlier this season, when Montreal played Ottawa, had 2 touchdowns. He scored 2 touchdowns yesterday and did it. And I like him because he's a veteran guy, one of those security blankets for young quarterbacks, and he's coming off his own injury issues, which wiped out last season. He had a great game. And speaking of great games, how about Davis Alexander, 3rd string quarterback from Portland State, Washington State, like he's from Washington State. This guy doesn't get much playing time, comes to practice, puts in the work. When those guys like those second and third string quarterbacks, they know they don't really have a shot in hell of playing, and to come to practice and be a professional and take the reps and do the scout team and, grind through training camp and knowing you're not going to get to do the fun part, which is playing a game. And then all of a sudden you're thrown into the game. And at one point, the dude was 12 for 12 in the football game passing. He showed some great moxie running for first downs. And he did it for his dad, who's battling cancer. So just a great story all around. I love stories. I don't care the team. And the Montreal Alouettes under Jason Moss, who, man, has really matured as a coach, too. Not as much of a hothead, definitely in control. And I think it's probably the first game where the Riders coach, Corey Mace, was out-coached. Jason Moss did a great job. Now, the pass defense is horrible. The Riders are giving up 328 yards a game, which is worst in the CFL. And yes, you got a third string quarterback and you don't have a lot of tape on him. And if they had some tape on him, may have been a better job in the secondary. And I think they were starting to figure him out at the end of the game. But the pass defense for the Rough Riders has been bad for the most part, real bad, except for, the main guy, Roland Milligan's been doing a pretty good job. And I thought Deontay Williams, for the most part, was doing a good job, but the coaches saw something else because they benched him yesterday. He didn't play. Amari Henderson played instead. He had some ups and downs there in the secondary in his first game action. So the pass defense is bad. They got to tighten that up. The dumb penalties, taking stupid penalties, they don't need it. Even though it was kind of a tic-tacky penalty, DeMarcus Fields smokes the guy out of bounds or kind of pushes him out of bounds on the special teams play, gets a penalty. Miles Brown takes a dumb penalty. A couple of other ones in the game. Riders got to clean those up. Tackling. Now, the Riders fly around. They make great plays. But they played like their hair's on fire without breaking down. Overran some plays. So that was an issue in the game, in my opinion. Both ways. The challenges were awful. Corey Mace had a bad challenge, and Jason Moss had a bad challenge. Mosses came on Nick Daly of Regina going through and almost blocking that Alouettes punt for the second time in the game. And the kicker Zima steps in to Daly, who's at his feet. There's no penalty there. There was no penalty called in the play. Moss was grasping for straws early in the game, and it cost him because he couldn't challenge things later in the game. And then Corey Mace, he calls a challenge on a Walter Fletcher fumble when it was clear Walter Fletcher was down, and the ground can't make you fumble anyway. So even if he wasn't down, the ground can't make you fumble. That's a rule as old as AstroTurf. Okay. So I don't know who's helping these coaches, but they need to do a way better job, including like Zima. Listen, if you're coming off the field and the coach is going to challenge, say, no, coach, I acted there. Like, you got to help the coach out. These challenges are like gold. They're like gold because then Mace, quickly after the one he challenged had failed, Mario Alford's returning a punt and he gets stripped, but it looks like his knees are down, but Mace, he doesn't challenge that one. So he doesn't challenge that one. That actually happened before the Fletcher fumble. Sorry. So he doesn't challenge that one. He challenges one that clearly was not going to be overturned. And then he's out of challenge later. And I have no idea why sometimes they can come down the booth and sometimes they can't. So the coaches don't have a challenge. Neither coach has a challenge. Montreal scrambling for a first down. The quarterback, Alexander, running to his left. He gets stripped by Brian Cox Jr., who's playing great in spot duty for the Riders, I believe. Strips him of the ball. The Alouettes recover the ball and take it to within a yard of a first down, even though on the TV broadcast, they didn't seem to know what was going on. But anyway, on the field, it was called an incomplete pass, which means the Alouettes would have to kick a longer field goal. Well, neither coach has a challenge, but the booth calls down and says, no, that's a fumble. But then in other situations, they don't call down. So I have no idea. We'd love to get some consistency. Like, if you can't get instant replay right, if you go to instant replay and get it wrong, or now you're just arbitrarily calling down when you want. It's kind of a bogus sham situation, all right? I've never been a big fan of CFL instant replay because they don't have enough cameras. And if you can't invest in proper instant replay, then why have it? When you do things like this, crazy, and I've said before, and I won't beat a dead horse, but microphones. Let's hear Andy Fantuz or whoever's in the replay booth, and let's hear them, what they're talking about, so we can get kind of an inside track on what they're talking about instead of having talking heads like me bitch all the time like this, right? A couple other things. Riders went away from the run game, which I don't know why. Mark Mueller, I thought, was calling a great game in the first half. In the second half, they only had 3 possessions, and they went away from the run game. Now, I think there were a couple of penalties in there where it's second and long or first and long, and the run game becomes a little harder to do. So maybe I've answered my own question. But they went away from the run game. And so that kind of hurt them, I think, as Frankie Hickson had it going. And that sets up the RPO. And when you got an athletic quarterback like Shea Patterson, that RPO can become a weapon. The other thing, listen, I've never played professional football. I will never play professional football. I just cover professional football. But I'm sorry, I can't see it. I can't see Caleb Evans. I can't see what anybody else sees. I know he's throwing in one game last year for 400 and some yards against Ottawa. He's a good short yardage guy. You saw the difference. He's in there. He's double clutching. He's holding the ball. He's played before as a quarterback a couple times last year. In fact, against the Riders, he only had to throw 11 passes. They ran for 183 against the Rough Riders and smoked Saskatchewan. Riders have an outstanding run defense this year, so that's a big change. But Caleb Evans is not a professional quarterback, in my opinion. I could be wrong. I've never played professional quarterback. Take what I say with a grain of salt, but I'll say it this way. I just don't see it. I don't see Davis Alexander. Now, there'll be ups and downs. When they get more tape on him, it'll be harder to do what he did yesterday. Like I said, I think the Riders were catching on at the end, but I saw more from Davis Alexander than I have at any time from Caleb Evans. I got too many Calebs in my life. There's Caleb Evans. I've talked to Kerry Joseph about Caleb Williams, the number 1 pick with the Bears, who's in camp with the former Rider quarterback as his coach. And then Caleb Joseph coming up on the show, the former Major League catcher and Sportsnet analyst. And the last thing that had people pissed off, the horns. The horns in Montreal. It's against the code of conduct. And when Montreal comes here on the 16th, we should have cowbells or air horns. The Riders restrict, I guess, what you can bring into the stadium. Hey, they're annoying. There's no doubt about it. It gets to be a little much. But would you rather have your stadium with 19,000, almost 20,000 lively? This is sports entertainment, folks. This is sports entertainment. And when you tune into an NFL game, the difference between the CFL and the NFL is you tune into an NFL game, and it might be 9-6. It's, I don't know, pick 2 shitty teams. Carolina and Arizona, it's 9-6. Oh, and the broadcast, they've got 18 cameras, more money for their broadcast. The broadcast crew, I don't know, how do I put it? Anyways, they've got a buttoned up broadcast crew. They've got great production, and it sounds loud, and it sounds big, and it sounds exciting. So like a 9-6 game is exciting. If you tuned into an Argonauts Blue Bombers game and it's 9-6 and there are 12,000 fans in Toronto, you're going to be, this is boring. This is Bush League. I'm turning it. That's what the average casual or new person tuning in or stumbling upon a CFL game would say. So you would rather have it being loud, have some atmosphere. I can guarantee that the players love it when it's loud. You want to perform. Listen, I can see there are people watching and listening to the show right now. I can see it. But I used to work across from Sean Kleisinger, my great producer, who people are asking me how he's doing. He's getting through. He's figuring it out, some health issues for him. But I used to work across from him. I was in a corner booth. I worked in a building. Now I'm just in my own home studio. And fortunately for you folks, if you're tuning in and a fan of the show, I'm a professional. I put in an honest day's work for a dishonest day's pay, because I'm not making a lot doing this right now. It's all spent on promotion and everything like that. Tell your friends, help me grow this thing. If you want to sponsor, go to ballsyuncut.ca. There's a place where you can sign up to be a sponsor, or just DM me at Ballsy Uncut. Little shameless plug there. Paul Waldo's gotten on board as a sponsor, by the way, at Royal LePage, getting a real estate game with Paul, 306-502-5355. Anyways, back to this. It's perceived that people are paying attention to you and you're surrounded by people and You're in a booth calling a game. You feel like there's lots. It's big. It's big. Well, that's how the teams are. Like even when I'm doing games, I'm going to be doing junior football games, and it's big. It's a big deal to them. Okay. And when fans come and watch the Regina Thunder, and there are 800 fans at Liable Field, the kids are jacked. They're playing. But if you go to like a Calgary Dinos game where my kid's going to be playing for the Dinos, at McMahon Stadium, there are 2,500 people there, or the Rams game, 2,500 people at Mosaic Stadium. It doesn't seem that big of a deal. It doesn't seem that loud. It doesn't seem like it matters that much. Whereas if you go to like an Alaris Center in Grand Forks and there are 14,000 there, or the Fargo Dome, or Nebraska 90,000, the players pick up their game because it feels like it matters more. So no, I'm in favor of the horns. I'm in favor of pumping crowd noise into these stadiums within a legal limit. Within a legal limit. I am. Let's make it feel like it's big. This is more than just at the game. It's sports entertainment. That's what it's all about. This is sports entertainment. We need to start thinking big. And yeah, you know what? Let's not restrict what you can within reason. Let's not restrict. Bring cowbells in. Bring horns in. Let's get going. This is a party. Tailgate. Have a great time. That's what it's all about. We've got such a short freaking summer. Let's get out in a beautiful city like Montreal. Make some noise. Enjoy some great CFL football. We've seen a lot of great CFL football games. Now, I asked Rider Nation yesterday, and I'll ask people that missed the Our Balls Are Bigger post-game show with myself and Manny Arsenault. We've got a stable of guys who are going to be doing the show with me over the next little while. Isaac Harker, former quarterback. Tyron Brackenridge is going to join me. Mike McCullough, John Ryan again. Chris Getzlaff says he'll do a couple. So make sure you check out the fastest growing post-game show, the Our Balls Are Bigger post-game show. But I asked people yesterday, besides being 5-2, what are the Riders? They've lost to the two really good teams that they have played. Like the two teams that are kind of you consider in their class, they've lost to. I had Rona jump in here. Rona Roth. You seem bitter, Ballsy. This is an entertaining team, and you know it. There's a lot of parity in the league this year, which is making for fun football to watch. Stop with the negativity. Then I got another one here. I'm just trying to find it. Scott Yemen. Well, I wonder why you're upset. You seem to be really negative. There's a lot of people saying I'm negative because I was shit canned and I'm just bitter. No, I'm not bitter. I'm trying to tell you what I see. And I see a good football team, a team that I picked to beat the Alouettes actually yesterday, and a team that I picked as number one in my power rankings going into this week. But let's not watch the game with green and white glasses. Now, had Trevor Harris played, maybe that veteran quarterback has a little more moxie than Shea Patterson. Well, he does have more moxie than Shea Patterson. He's a more accurate passer and probably a little better arm than Shea Patterson. So yeah, maybe he finds a way to get it done in the two games that they have lost. But they haven't beat the teams that are considered in their class. They've come up short. Yes, I know it was a short week. Both games were on the road. Those are valid cases, as Sanchu says. But I'm asking you, what are your Riders? How do you feel about your Riders? I'll address some more of those in a little bit. You can hit me up on the chat rooms here at X, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok at Ballsy Uncut. But when we come back, we go to Ottawa. I caught up with this guy yesterday, Dariusz Bladek, offensive lineman for the Ottawa Redblacks. Oh, there's my man, Dariusz Bladek. Truth be told, we've tried to tape this interview 2 times, so third time's the charm. Let's hope. Okay, dude, look at that hair. I don't remember you having curly hair like that.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Man, it's I grew it out a little bit after a couple years up here, and man, it's just stuck ever since. And the look, and also feels good up in the helmet. So
yeah. You know, I was telling you earlier that I noticed guys let air out of their helmets so they can fit all that hair in. I'm jealous because you see I don't have much hair, but like I think that's a little dangerous, don't you?
I definitely don't advise it, but every player's got his feel. I, for one, ask for a little bit more, but that could be positional based. We do a little
Mhm.
bit hidden, at my job.
Yeah, they do. And so, because of that, are you happy we have less padded practices? Like, is that better or worse for you guys?
Um, I think the one a week, the physical aspect of the game, is there, and I think that without the pads, you learn how to practice better. I think that you come into work and you can work full speed if you got a really good group of guys, and once you get down, to the details of learning how to practice without pads, I think it's better without the constant hitting and banging, especially sometimes on these short weeks. I do like getting the
Mhm.
pads on once a week. I think that it's important, especially earlier in the season. So I don't mind it personally. But I think if you know how to practice, that you could get a lot more out of just constant banging between the guys.
So how do you look after your body? Before we roll tape here, you said a day of tubs and massages and looking after your body. So how do you look after your body, Darius?
Just listening to it. You got to listen to your body and just understand, what you're working. First of all, taking what you had from the previous game and bringing that into the week, addressing that first and foremost, seeing how that goes on day one or so. And then from there, you're going to have your heavy load on day two and you're going to see how you feel and just listen to the body, don't neglect it and just put in the extra time, whether you're putting that in the film room, the weight room, or the recovery aspect, but all three of those are very important.
So, how do you feel wearing Ottawa black instead of Toronto blue? What's that like?
It was different, man. We had a hell of a run in Toronto when I was there, and truly did enjoy it. But man, I am a firm believer in just working, and these colors, man, they've grown on me, and this fan base and the teammates. I mean, it's all I know now. So.
Yeah. So what's the vibe like in Ottawa? Because that's been a suffering fan base for a while. They've got a real solid base. Like, they get 18 to 19,000. I know it's not a sellout, but they've been there through thick and thin. You'll grow it as you continue to win and roll this thing downhill. But what's the vibe like around the city?
Excited, man. I mean, excitement all over, and people that truly are really believing in us. Coming out here, you heard the things of last year's and the whole nine. I mean, I came here with my own story from last year. You know what I mean? And I told everyone for us to move forward and for us to be this new team that we want to be, we got to forget about the past. We learn from the past, but we don't live in the past. We're going to grow forward. So the fan base and everyone, I think they're starting to truly see the work that we've put on the field, become wins. And, this Friday, make that 4-0 at home and continue to keep that rolling.
So you are going to be playing a Calgary Stampeders D line that has only got 5 sacks, but they look good against BC. And man, they got some big guys up there, like that Coatney guy. He's like a building with feet. I know you're not a small guy, but that's a big dude. What do you see from their D line?
They're hard workers, a lot of movement, strong bull, but a lot of movement, guys that work second moves. So I think just sitting here and communicating between the line and being lined up will be real good. I think that they're going to be a good matchup.
What do you see in your quarterback, Drew Brown, one of the new up-and-coming young quarterbacks in the league? He's had some good play. He's had some, you'd expect it from a young guy, some plays that weren't so great. But what are you seeing from him, leadership in the huddle, that type of thing?
Just the commander, and there's a lot of expectation, a guy that cares. I mean, the man, he cares. He cares. He shows up to work and every little thing, whether it's in practice or whatever we're doing. And he's locked in with us. He's a great teammate, and I love him at the helm, and I believe in him more than anything. I know this room does as well.
So Darius, when you came into the league, I don't know if you were a leader or not, but by just by your circumstance, you're a rookie, so you mind your P's and Q's. How has that Dariusz Bladek, who was in Saskatchewan, how have you changed from when you were here?
Oof. We're talking a couple of years here. I mean,
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough along my career. I've crossed paths with a lot of greats, a lot of great leaders, or a lot of great teammates and players with me. Whether it's learning the game and learning how things are done right, from like the Brandon Labatts, the Dan Clarks, the Thaddeus Colemans. Those guys that have been there and really showed me the early on the ropes, and then going to Toronto, growing into that role, growing into being a leader there. And really embracing that and fully buying into that. Coming here, it's a little bit different. I truly don't. I believe what is needed will need to be said. If it doesn't need to be said or anything like that, we got a great group of guys that have been here for a long time. So I have my moments, but it's really early on in the season. I think that collectively, a lot of the veterans in this room pull the room in the right direction.
So the Riders are playing for their coach, Corey Mace, because he seems like a player's coach. Tell me what it's like to play for another player's coach and Bobby Dice and play for a guy that you truly would run through a wall for.
Man, it's been awesome. It's been a lot of fun. It's been different. And I think that's what makes this game so special. There's so many different personalities, and Coach Dice is just one of those guys, man. You wanna be great for him. He's understanding, but he has a high expectation of us. And all you want to do is be able to match that.
You know, it's funny. I talked to MacAulay, and we talked about him kind of being a transient guy. He's gone from BC to Calgary to Montreal. I said, some people look at that as a negative. Why have you been in so many places? But he said, I look at it as a positive. I've been in a third or just over a third of the league. I know all the players. It's a small league. You moved around by your maybe different reasons, but you're on your third team. You know, do you see it that way too? Like it's a small 9-team league, but you're here long enough, you get to experience different things and almost everything this league has to offer and know most of the players too.
It's tough sometimes. For me, I try to keep a tunnel vision, especially in games. You're like you said, you play a bunch of these guys, and being a really good teammate and having these guys that have been in the league, a lot of them are my friends. So we get out there, and whether it's Sean Oakman just recently, Sam Achibonch, these guys are out there trying to chat with you. Sam Moncrief, Lucius Purifoy. That I could just name. That's just from the last team we played, and you try not to get caught up in. I really don't. I don't really get into any of the talking or the chatter. But you look at each other at the line. You give a little wink. You give a little smile. If they try to get into like how you been, I try not to get into that talk. I mean, right now I'm trying to kick your ass, but once all the dust is settled, man. I mean, there's more than a handful of guys on that. Just the last team, Edmonton, including MBT and Javon Leake, and I mean, those are guys that I truly do. I have a lot of love for. We've done a lot of things together, so it's always different. But I love that there is a good amount of guys. It is like a family in this league in some sense, right? A family that fights, but a family.
I love it. It's a good way to put it. Two more quick questions for you. Who's your best friend in football then?
Philip Blake. I have a lot of great teammates. I have a lot of great people, but right now I would have to say Philip Blake. It's my brother from another mother. He's recovering, unfortunately, from a quad injury, but man, that's my guy.
Yeah, he's a warrior. That's 2 years in a row where he suffered some tough injuries. That's got to be tough mentally on a football player, right?
Well, we won the damn Grey Cup. He broke both of his hands. He broke one hand, kept playing, broke the other hand, kept playing. I mean, there's not a lot of guys that could do that, and that man right there. He's shown me a lot outside of friendship and brotherhood.
That's awesome. And lastly, what's it like? You were in Saskatchewan. That's where you cut your teeth. You went to Toronto and you came back to Saskatchewan and won a Grey Cup in that stadium. What was that like for you, bro?
I'll tell you what. A lot we speak about manifesting, and I think more than not manifesting. I think you need to envision yourself being in situations and get into those places. You gotta, if you practice, seeing it constantly, when you get to that moment, you'll almost feel ready, I believe. And honestly, when we saw with me and Philip Blake, because we both came from Sask to Toronto, when we saw that the Grey Cup was going to be in Saskatchewan, we're like, we got to be in that damn Grey Cup, and we're going to be in that damn Grey Cup. And when it all lined up, I tell you what, we won that. When we won the cup, I held nothing personal to Saskatchewan in some sense, that everything that happened, I understand it's a business. I did want to stay there at the time, but I feel like everything happens for a reason. I grew into a bigger player, going into a different environment and going to be someone else, have a different role as a player. And, I ran, after we won that Grey Cup, I ran to the middle of the field and I looked up at those boxes and just wanted them to know, like, I see them, that, this, maybe that could have been us, but, it was completely full circle for me. My family was all there, and, it's a memory that I'll never forget, let alone, the ring that comes with it.
Okay, and that's great. I want to. I've heard this tossed around a lot lately. Okay, in my own inner circle, everything happens for a reason. I had a job change here. I'm doing my own thing now. Everything happens for a reason. How long did it take you to actually buy into that? You know, you left Saskatchewan. Did you buy in right away, or was it a little bit of a transition for you?
I bought in right away to myself, to be completely honest. It was less about the environment that I was going into and the mindset, more or less the mindset I came into it with for myself. I think that you could have sent me to any team and I would have brought the same type of attitude and the same type of expectation of where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. Obviously there's a lot of external things, but I always say as a guard, we're master facilitators. I need to find out the strength and the weaknesses. That's what I have to do best for the guys around me. So when I go to a different environment, whether that would have been Toronto or here in Ottawa, I look at myself first to see what do I have to do to be at my best so that the guys around me could be at their best.
Man, I wish you nothing but success, continued success. Best of luck against the Calgary Stampeders, and stay healthy, okay, my friend?
Thank you so much, Ballsy. All the best with you in the show, my man. Thanks for having me on.
All right, one of our favorite segments during the baseball season, taking cuts with former major leaguer Caleb Joseph, also a Blue Jays analyst. Now, you're on your way from Tennessee to Toronto. You're in an airport, so you're trying to find a quiet area if that's possible. Is it challenging traveling these days?
Yeah, especially with all of the cancellations that a lot of companies have faced. Luckily, I've been okay with Air Canada. They have a direct flight, so that's always nice. Only an hour and 50 minutes, which might be hard to believe considering where Tennessee is, where Toronto is. But it's a short, quick flight. They have taken very good care of me. No cancellations yet, so hopefully that continues.
One guy who's changing scenery is Randy Arozarena going from Tampa to Seattle. What do you make of that trade for the Mariners?
Well, Seattle needs bats. Absolutely, positively need bats, and they probably need more than a Arozarena. Their pitching staff, especially their starters, are so good. They have such a good foundation there on the starting side. They just cannot hit the baseball. Quite similarly to the Toronto Blue Jays early on in their season, just have not been able to find consistency on offense. Arozarena is a threatening bat. He can get on a hot streak and really take a team on his back and carry them to the finish line. The problem is it's been mostly a disappointing season for Arozarena. So I think Jerry Dipoto, the general manager of the Seattle Mariners, has taken a bit of a flyer, hopefully catching lightning in a bottle. Arozarena has played in multiple playoff series and done very well. He can be a middle-of-the-order bat. They just put Ty France, kind of their right-handed hitting first baseman, on waivers, and he was kind of a franchise player for the last 2 or 3 years, hitting in the middle of the order. So that shows you how desperate they are to get some offense in there. Ty France has been really struggling at the plate. They decided to move on. Maybe Arozarena can kind of bring a little bit of offense into that lineup.
Took the Padres over 50 years to get a no-hitter with Joe Musgrove, the San Diegan, and then Dylan Cease yesterday gets a no-no. Just talk about the no-no, and it's not a perfect game, but it's still a no-no, and that's not easy to do.
Oh, no, not especially in today's game where a lot of starting pitchers are only going 5-6 innings due to pitch limits or matchups or third time through the order, a lot of these type of things. I remember, I want to say it was 2017. I'll have to go back and look, but I was with the Baltimore Orioles in Seattle facing Hisashi Iwakuma of the Mariners. He no-hit us in Seattle, and that was a weird feeling being on the opposite end, being in the lineup, going 0 for 3 with a couple weak ground outs to shortstop and a line drive to left field, if my memory serves me right. He no-hit us, and it was a weird feeling because around the 6th inning, we had realized, wait, we're being no-hit. We need to do something here. Iwakuma was an 88 to 92 mile-an-hour sinker baller, nothing overpowering, little slider, little curveball, little changeup. One of those guys that you think that you're going to get 2 or 3 hits off of. He ended up blanking our team, and to be on the opposite end, watching him celebrate, it was a bit embarrassing, but good for the Padres starter and being able to get that done, just to be able to finish a game now feels like a complete game, much less do something great like a no-hitter.
And generally, when there is a no-hitter or a perfect game in baseball, it's there's got to be something wacky that happens to keep it alive. And there was a bloop over the head of Bogarts, and he tried to make an over-the-shoulder basket catch, and it went off his glove. But thankfully, Merrill was running in from center field and caught the tip drill, the old football tip drill.
Absolutely, an assist on the play, almost like an apple in hockey. You get a little helper there, but. Yes, there are always plays, and I remember in that game that I was just talking about in Seattle, Dustin Ackley in left field made an unbelievably great diving catch going into the gap, and he was known for his bat at that time. Wasn't a very good outfielder. Actually came up as a second baseman, if my memory serves me correct, and he was a bit of a circus out there in left, but he made an unreal play to save extra bases. Obviously, that would have broken up the no-hitter, but almost always there's a play that you can put your finger on, you can point to, and you can say, that play changed the game. That play really made the no-hitter continue on and allow that pitcher to finish it.
Yeah, and so do you know, like in this day of incentives in contracts, does like a Dylan Cease have an extra 5-10 grand or whatever if he gets a no-hitter or something like that?
Yeah, it's a great question. A lot of contracts are kind of incentive laden. Not so much necessarily as your 0 to 3 or even your 3 to 6, which is the minimum contract, and then into arbitration. But there are some built-ins there during your arbitration contracts that mostly has to do with like Silver Slugger, All-Star games. It can sometimes deal with the amount of starts. Now, when you get to free agency, that's when you're trying to pump all of those extra incentives in there. Some guys like to do 25 games started if you're a pitcher, and then maybe, $40,000, $50,000 for every 10 starts, after that or whatever. I remember having a couple contracts where I was games played, so games started. Mm-hmm. So after 75 games started, I start to really build up. But he could receive something from a GM. A lot of times in GM, the GMs will go down and do something nice, because it brings a lot of attention to the ball club. I know in Japan, they have what they call fight money. And when you do something well, they always stuff your pockets with cash. So it's literally a performance-driven game in, game out. If you hit a 2 or 3 run homer, the general manager of that team will come and stuff $5,000 in your pocket. And you reach in, looking for your keys after the game, there's $5,000 in there. So I think that's a really cool thing that the MPB does in Japan.
That is a great nugget that you bring to the table, and that's why I'm glad we got you on the show, Taking Cuts with Caleb Joseph. Okay, we just went through the Hall of Fame weekend, the induction, all that type of thing. Did you ever get a chance in your time in Baltimore to run into Cal Ripken Jr., one of my favorite players of all time? Just longevity. He wasn't flashy, but that's maybe what I liked about him.
Yeah, the Iron Man, consistency, the model of showing up to work every day. And I think a lot of people in general can relate to that, because sometimes you don't feel very good. You just got to suck it up and go to work. And Cal did it for a very long time, a record that undoubtedly will never be broken. I just don't believe it. I don't see anybody ever playing that many games ever again. But yes, I did get to run into Cal. He owns the Aberdeen Ironbirds, which now it's a high A affiliate of the Baltimore Orioles, was the short season affiliate. So as soon as you get drafted, you can be sent to a number of different places. Rookie ball, which typically stays in Florida, you could be sent to short season because you're being drafted in June, so you're going to start the season, but it's going to be a shorter season. I was sent to Aberdeen, short season, my very first year, 2008. And I will never forget, opening night, Cal Ripken owns the team. He owns the stadium there in Maryland. He's out to throw the first pitch. I'm in the dugout with my catcher's gear on, just nervous about my game. And then I don't know where this giant human comes up and says, "Hey, man, I'm throwing out the first pitch. You mind playing a little catch with me?" And I was like, absolutely. I know who you are, and I would love to play catch with you. So I grabbed my glove. We are playing catch, and I warmed Cal Ripken up for that opening pitch.
Wow.
And that was the first interaction. and then a couple different other interactions as I got to the big leagues when we won the AL East in 2014, stuff like
Yeah.
that. But I did remind him years later, hey, there was a young, skinny, blonde-haired kid. I had longer hair at the time.
Yeah.
I caught your first pitch, and he said he remembered. I don't know if he did, but we'll see.
That's awesome. Hey, is there a legend that you would like to have met, or like either living or dead that you liked? Like, I think of a guy like you, and I'm like I was a receiver growing up playing football. I would have loved
Sure.
to have met a Jerry Rice in the NFL. Is there a legend past or one alive that you'd meet? Like, I think of you, I think of a Johnny Bench type of guy.
Yeah, absolutely. That was literally the first name that popped into my head was Johnny Bench. Just getting to know him, seeing what he did in the game, such an incredible career, the feat that he was able to do back there, the combination of power, of average, of excellent catching defensive abilities. And, to be honest with you, my brain also goes to pitchers because of that working relationship. I always kind of wanted to meet and catch Nolan Ryan just to see what it felt like to catch the Express. And I had a bench coach in Baltimore that actually caught one of his no-hitters, and he was telling me all about it. And the more he told me about it, the more I wanted to just feel it and experience it. And so I go to old school pitchers like Nolan Ryan, even a guy like Goose Gossage, just like a mean old guy out there. A lot of those guys back, with the handlebars, a lot of guys back in the day, they just seem to have a little bit more grit and personality. I don't know why it just is perceived that way by me, but I kind of like those old school in your face, like I know what I'm doing, get back there, you try and go make a mound visit and they tell you to get your hiney back behind the plate. I love those type of guys. So any of those kind of old school legendary pitchers, I'd love to meet and sit down and have a chat.
Hey, did you ever go to the mound? You and the pitcher were kind of arguing, and then do you ever go back? I don't think you'd ever do this, but I often wonder, sometimes you're an old lineman and the quarterback pisses you off. I might let that guy get by me just to. Do you ever go back and say, hey, this is going to be a curveball to the batter?
It was hard sometimes not to do that because you're not getting along with the guy on the mound. You're trying to help him. He thinks you're an idiot, and he's giving it up. And sometimes you want to try and build that trust. And if the hitter hits a pitch that is the wrong pitch very far, sometimes that actually helps build trust. And I go back to Bull Durham, the old baseball movie where Kevin Costner's playing a veteran catcher, and he's got this young flamethrower up there, and he knows it all. He hasn't had any adversity, and he's got it all figured out. And he goes back and tells the guy what's coming to kind of build that trust. I never actually did that. But I will say one thing I did see was when I played against my brother in the minor leagues, we actually played together in the big leagues as well in 2018. Quite a feat. Last brothers to do that since the Ripken brothers, actually. But we had a friend that was on the mound, and he told my brother what was coming because he was friends with all three of us. And so I was catching, he was hitting, and our buddy was pitching. He told him what was coming, and my brother fouled it off, and then he told him, that's all you're getting. So that's about as close to what's coming as I ever got.
That's awesome. Okay, a couple more quick questions for you. Kevin Kiermaier says he's retiring after the season. He's been banged up. So, what are the Jays? Can the Jays move him? How does that? And what do you think the Jays will do at the trade deadline?
Yeah, they'll be able to move him if they want. He's the perfect 26th man on a winning team, can be a defensive replacement if you need, can step in and start if you have an injury, runs the bases very well, elite speed still at his age, great defender. Every contending team is looking for additional help to kind of ensure themselves against injury, and the more experience you can get at that position, the better. Kiermaier's obviously played in a lot of different playoff scenarios with the Rays. I believe he even played in the World Series a couple of years ago. So he's been there, done that. Veteran guy, accountable, would be great in any clubhouse, can fit in. Knowing that it's on an expiring contract, they're probably not going to be able to get a ton back for him, but you give him an opportunity to go try and win a World Series. And yeah, he's hanging it up after this year. And so to be honest with you, there is a little bit of intrigue for other teams knowing this is it for him. And so he's going to go crazy. If it means he's going to have to run into a wall to catch a baseball for you, he's going to do it because there is no next year. So I kind of like knowing that if I was a general manager, that this guy is his last merry-go-round and he's going to give it our all, I think that's a good plan. What are the Jays going to do? Interesting question. We'll find out really soon here. I think my impressions is that just about everybody is going to be discussed if they are asked by other teams. My impression is that they won't trade Barrios, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, and Kevin Gausman. But I think you still have to listen on these players. And there's an announcement coming over, I can hear. I think you have to be able to listen on these players because you're going to try and rebuild your system, in my opinion. So I think they will move on from quite a few guys. I think they should. I don't think they should just be looking at expiring contracts, guys like Kikuchi, guys like Jimmy Garcia. I think they need to open it up to everybody, see where they're at, because they really do need a bit of a reset, and it's a larger reset than people realize.
Okay, I'm the media sponsor of the local baseball tournament. It's the Saskatchewan Provincial U18 AAA Provincial Baseball Tournament, which kicks off today. So just a word of wisdom from a guy who played and came up through the ranks. You know, these young baseball players, I know a lot of them are turned on to the show. You got any advice for them playing in the tournament and just through their career? A lot of these guys committing to college now and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Have fun. And I know it's probably the most boring piece of advice, but have fun because these are truly the best moments that you will have on a baseball field. Some might say, you're absolutely crazy. You played the big leagues. You played the playoffs. It becomes a job once you're paid for it. And don't get me wrong, it's unbelievable. But when I look back at some of the fondest memories I truly have, it was playing in some of these summer leagues, playing with all my buddies, playing kind of carefree and loving and enjoying the game for what it is. Once you get to the professional level, it changes and you see the game a little bit differently. And so go out there, play as hard as you can and just enjoy it. Enjoy being with your friends because once you get drafted, you don't get to pick your teammates. You don't get to pick your friends. So, I will say, effort, attitude, those are things you can control. So much in this game, in baseball, you can't control if a guy nails something down and away on you, or if you're a pitcher and you make a great pitch and a guy gets a base hit. Control the controllables. And what we can control as baseball players every day is attitude and effort. Come to the field with a great attitude. Cheer your teammates on when you might not be doing well. That will play huge for the moxie of the team. And effort. Just play hard. Play as hard as you can. We're only asking you more times than not to run down the first baseline like 4 times at 90 feet. It's not that hard. Attitude, effort, have fun. There you go.
And I appreciate it because you're proof of the pudding because this isn't ESPN, but you treat it like it's ESPN with his startup show. Attitude and effort. I love it,
That's
man.
Right.
Thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Safe travels.
Thank you. See you soon.
Yeah, and I caught up with him, obviously, Caleb, before he was boarding a plane in Nashville to come to Toronto and cover Blue Jays baseball, and he was mentioning, or we were mentioning, who the Jays were going to trade there. Jays made the first significant trade of their summer Friday, sending reliever Yimi Garcia to Seattle for outfield prospect Jonathan Clays and minor league catcher Jacob Sharp. So there you go, on the move, Garcia. We're going to address some of your observations on the Rough Rider game and things in general. I want to give a shout out there. You saw there, if you're watching the show, either live or later on, audio wise, you wouldn't know, but there was a splash page with Mr. D Stats, Cocktails, Dreams, and Cravings. They sponsor the Our Balls Are Bigger post game show. Thanks to them for getting on board. And you'll see one coming up here from Payson Insurance Services, Kevin Payson, estate planning, insurance planning, that type of thing, benefits. He's all about that and has helped me out with life insurance. So I can tell you he's a great guy. Not something you want to really think about, life insurance or wills, but you got to eventually, especially when you start getting up there in age. And speaking of life or death, I got to bring this up before we get to some of your chats here. This jersey over my shoulder is the Ryan Nugent Hopkins autographed jersey that I picked up at a pickleball fundraiser for my buddy Troy Koser's fundraiser for cancers. He's battling cancer. Another one of my friends who helped me get into the broadcasting business and has been a lifelong friend. Pete Pasco, who is still doing Locker Talk on Access, a show he and I started way back in the day in 2001. He continues to do it under, it was Sports Zone. Now it's Locker Talk. Pete's also a local high school coach, but he's battling liver cancer. Just found out this week that it's spread to his lungs. So I am using this show as a platform to help raise money for him. When I got into this, I said to myself, I want to entertain, I want to inform, and I want to try to give back to the community. And when I can do it for a friend, I'm more than happy to do it. So this jersey right now is up for bids, and it will be till about 6 o'clock tonight. Then I will tell you who the ultimate owner of this jersey is. So right now, I had Kevin Glant get on board for a bid. I had Murad El-Khatib from AGT Foods, but the guy who's leading the bidding right now is Carm Carteri, one of the great broadcasters in CFL history, one of the best color analysts ever in the CFL's history, long time with the Riders. I think one of his very first games he did was the 89 Grey Cup, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, Carm Carteri has a bid of $800. If you want to top Carm, you can DM me at Ballsy Uncut on Facebook, X, or Instagram or TikTok before the show is, before 6 o'clock. At 6 o'clock. Yeah. And somebody said, so if you want to, I got distracted here by a message. If you want to get a handle on that jersey and get a hold of it, got a top $800 from Carm. Great community guy. Wanted Pete's number, wanted to talk to Pete. Pete is an awesome dude. So yeah, autographed Ryan Nugent-Hopkins jersey, money going to Pete Pasco. My buddy Steve Tunison, Vice President, Sask Lotteries Corporation. He has reached out just to make a donation. I'll be forwarding that money on to Pete. Says he doesn't need another jersey. Here's something I'm going to do once that jersey's auctioned off, though. We're going to do something else. Check this out. I've got an autographed CFL football that's been over my shoulder. I gave it to Logan Furlan to get autographed from the team. Furlan's come through with an team autographed Logan Furlan jersey to go along with the football. I have 2 tickets to the Labor Day Classic that I was going to give away in a package, but I'm auctioning it off now. So it'll be 2 Labor Day tickets, Riders, Blue Bombers, and then Murad El-Khatib has come through and pitched in 4 tickets to the AGT Lounge for the home opener next year for the Rough Riders. Who knows? The way they're playing could be a banner raising ceremony. You never know. It's been a while since we've had one of those, and it'd be nice to raise one in the new stadium if you're a Rider fan. So yeah, 4 tickets to the AGT Lounge for the home opener next year, 2 tickets to this year's Labor Day Classic, Riders, Blue Bombers, a team autographed Logan Furlan jersey, and an autographed CFL football by the Riders team. That'll be up next for bid next week and for the next couple of weeks as we're trying to raise money for my buddy Pete Pasco, great media guy, local coach, and good guy in our community who grew up in Ontario and moved here for work and became a Saskatchewanian. So you got to love that. Addressing some of your messages. Michael Moore, former Ram. Right on, buddy. Love the show. Love what you said about the Olympics. Yeah, the Olympics. You'll find that everywhere. It's actually disgusting. They're mocking Christianity by having a mock Last Supper with look like some transgender people. I don't know. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. Embarrassing. You just basically told 2.4 billion Christians to not bother watching the Olympics. Screw you. It's a joke. It's embarrassing. If it was the other way around, it would be covered by mainstream media and we'd be hearing about it and people would be boycotting the Olympics. I'm boycotting the Olympics now. I'll maybe interview a Saskatchewan athlete after the Olympics, but I'm not watching that shit. You just turn me off. You turn me off. Big fan of the new show, SK says. Thanks, man. SK Sneerson. Corey Huber agrees with my assertion that Caleb Evans is not a good quarterback. Totally agree with you. And a guy by the name of Easter Bunny says, I'm entertained, but it would be better if you were live. This is a live show. I'm live right now. I'm live after the game, the Our Balls Are Bigger post-game show. Some of the interviews, a couple of them, are not live, like Dariusz Bladek. I got a hold of him yesterday because, for gosh sakes, I can't talk to him now. It's game day. He's going to be taking the field in a half an hour against the Stampeders. Caleb Joseph, pardon me. I normally get Caleb Joseph live, but he is traveling to Toronto. You have to be flexible with some of these people, all right? Also, I wanted to get to the question I had of the day yesterday. What do you make of your Saskatchewan Roughriders? They're 5-2, but they're 5-2 beating so-so or crappy teams, quote-unquote crappy teams, or teams not doing well, but they are have 2 losses against teams that you'd consider contenders. That would be the Alouettes and the BC Lions. Yes, both on the road, one on a short week. Riders had the lead, maybe ran out of gas and some other things. If you missed the Rider Rewind segment, you can get it back in podcast form or when the show's done and just rewind the show. But I'd ask the question, what do you think of your Saskatchewan Roughriders? So here's what I got from some people. Mojo says, well, the next test is at home next week. A division team at home that they should beat. That's the Elks he's referring to. If this team is going to be good, they have to win those games. This one tonight, it's okay. We get Montreal again at home. This from, I think it's Glenn Chupik. If Lothar makes one of those 2 doinks, he would have been able to win it on the final play of the game. The team continues to impress, and the D will only get better. Yeah, Lothar has trouble from about 50 and out, where other guys like Castillo are nailing it. Brett hasn't got that down yet, but I have confidence in Lothar. He is good. When the season rolls along, he's generally good. James, they're a team that can compete for a championship. 2 missed field goals and some untimely penalties cost them the game. I would have liked to see some adjustments to that 7-man front Montreal was playing. The third-string quarterback for Montreal played very well. May have taken over the number 2 spot. I would say he does. Gerald Fogg, this team is playing some exciting ball. What a difference from the last 2 years. I'm good with 5-2 at this point in the season. Jamie says, I think they're a team still finding their identity. Future is bright. Your boy, Zachy Sports, says, they're a really good team missing their starting quarterback. Grey Cup contenders for sure. Jared Haight says they're a banged up team that lost to an equally banged up team on the road. Paul Arando, this is a terrific team. Great defense, a young quarterback looking really strong. What are the chances of 2 field goal attempts hitting the crossbar? Really enjoying watching the team this year with the new coach. Corey McKechnie says for the first time in a while, they are a team that can lose a game and still have fans defend them and stick to them. Or stick with them, I guess is what he meant. The last few years, this thread would have been filled with doom and gloom and cries for people's head. It's a nice change. No, it was only filled with people saying, Ballsy, you suck. You are bitter. No, I'm not bitter. I just simply asked a question. Anyway, your thoughts on your Rough Riders. What do you think? And keep the bids coming for that jersey. $800, our top bid. We'll talk some more sports in a moment. Hey, my old work colleague, Mark Harrison, joining me now. How are you, bro?
Fantastic. Yourself?
Good. That's a nice little duster you got there.
Well, had to try to do something to look a little older than I am. So,
how old are you now?
27 this summer. So
27. Now, this guy used to be my radio producer, did a great job, but he left to, he always pursued coaching on the side, and then he decided to take it full time. Tell the folks where you're at.
Yeah, currently I work at the Volley Barn here in Regina for Regina Youth Volleyball League, which is a league that provides kind of like a house league in hockey. Provides volleyball to kids' age 5 all the way up to grade 12 and sometimes even beyond. About 600, 700 athletes throughout the year, multiple different seasons. Summer camp season is obviously crazy right now, so I'm in the middle of that.
Yeah.
You can tell my voice. I've been losing it a bit. I've been coaching too much lately. So, and then I also coach club volleyball here for Summit Volleyball Club, and on the men's side, and they have a women's program as well, which is doing really well.
So it sounds like volleyball. We'll get into the championship side, which just happened in Lloydminster at the Saskatchewan Summer Games. But it sounds like volleyball is really flourishing here in Regina and Saskatchewan at large.
Huge. It's really taken off. I mean, the women's side has always been big, but the men's side is really starting to catch its stride. And it's really cool to see so many young players and young coaches really stick around in the province and help build it from the grassroots level. So
you're 27. Last I heard from you, you didn't have a kid. So are you, does being a surrogate father to these young kids, boys and girls, Does it act as birth control, or does it give you a preview of being a dad? How does that work?
I did say that to a few of the parents this weekend. They go, because we live, I don't know if people are aware, but you actually live at the high school. Like, so there's a bunch of military cots that they bring in.
Okay.
And everyone, it's the athletes' village. It's very much like a mini Olympic Games up there. So there's 2,000 athletes.
Wow.
Over 7 days that come and compete in all these different sports, and all the coaches and athletes live at, well, it was the Lloyd Comp High School up there.
Yeah.
And I said to some of the parents, it's kind of like herding cats. Like, you can corner a few of them, but then a couple others kind of get out of the way there. So definitely a bit of birth control, but I love the guys. They're fantastic, and they make it, seeing, the joy from, succeeding and learning and growing, it makes it all worth it.
And being 27, you're not that far removed. You can really relate to them. It's like you get the TikTok, you get all that stuff, right?
Well, I won't say I get it. They like to remind me that I'm really pushing. Well, I'm not going to say what they think I'm pushing, but I like to kind of try and get down and I say my vocabulary lowers, my IQ lowers a bit the more I hang out with them. So.
Yeah, you got to watch out how you say that, because Kamala Harris is getting ripped because she said 18 to 24-year-olds are stupid. That's another story for another day. Okay, so let's talk about the championship. Regina wins at the Saskatchewan Summer Games, and you were the coach there. So tell me about the tourney and the big victory.
Yeah, unreal tournament. We went 6-0, never lost a game. And super cool experience. Just, it's neat because it's not like, it's not like individual cities, right? It's regions. Now, obviously, Regina, being a bigger population center, gets its own team, same with Saskatoon. But the team we played against in the final, Southwest, encapsulates Swift Current, Moose Jaw, Val-Marie, like anything in that Southwest type of region. And so some amazing athletes, really well coached groups from across the province, just the nicest people. And my guys, it's 14U volleyball was the age. And so it's actually even playing time at that age to ensure that everyone gets a chance. So that provides its own kind of unique tactical kind of know-how. Like, do you load a lineup? Do you kind of go equal playing time? And fortunately, we were lucky enough to have 12 deep, and we just kind of rolled 6-6 and was able to win the final in 2.
Yeah, is it hard to, and no disrespect to kids, but they're not all at the same level? Is it hard to hide that player that maybe is not quite up to snuff with the other kids?
It can be, but you know what? Like I said, very fortunately for myself, like we had a very solid 12-man roster, which was such a blessing. I mean, some of the regions only had 8 kids come out to their tryouts. Yeah. Just in those, some of the northern regions or the middle regions, some of them were, like the Prairie Central region is from Warman all the way to Lumsden, and why? Like, it's a huge region, and so. Yeah, there's a lot of area, but there's not a lot of kids, right, that really play in that area. So, volleyball is a unique sport, right? Like, you can only really touch the ball twice when it's on your side. It's a 3-contact thing. You can't really have one player that dominates. A little like hockey in that sense, and so it's unique where you really do need everyone to buy in. As a coach, that's the toughest part is, can you get everyone on the same page? And I was really fortunate that the guys really bought in and could see the results early, and that really helped us down the stretch.
And I would say volleyball, listen, there's great athletes, there can be injuries, but it's not a contact sport per se. So if you're a parent a little worried about contact sports, which some are, this would be a great sport for you. And it's a small roster, right? Kind of like basketball. It's a small roster. So, and if there's, equal playing time, then that's good for the kids. They get to learn the sport and develop.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's why they bring it in at that 14U and younger age level, is just to get kids involved and get them playing and really take the maybe more of a coach manipulation. Some do, right? And I'm not going to, that's, most coaches are great, but there's always a few, right? And it's like, that just allows you to really get those kids that maybe need an extra year or two to develop, especially on the boys' side, because they take a little longer to kind of develop and get that strength and that height. There's some kids that come back from age 15 to 16, they've grown 6 inches, right? And you're like, well, you're a different athlete now. And so, whereas in other sports, they may be kind of cut or phased out, you can give them that opportunity in volleyball at a young age to kind of stick with it.
Yeah, awesome, man. So if I'm a parent and I want you to herd my cat in the future, I want to go to a volleyball camp. What does that look like? What does the camp look like? And how do I get involved with volleyball?
Yeah, there's lots of different levels. Like the entry-level camp I'm coaching, I'm actually going to go coach it just now, is is anywhere from, like I said, kind of ages 7, 8, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way up to grade 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
That's through the Regina Youth Volleyball League, and that
Mhm.
can be found by Googling ICP Regina Youth Volleyball.
Yeah.
And then the little more hardcore stuff is the club volleyball, which is like Summit Volleyball Club that I'm a part of. And again, that can just be found by Googling Summit Volleyball Regina. And then I also offer some private coaching lessons to clients that really want to take their skills to the next level. Found some incredible success with that, going 1-on-1, 2-on-1 with kids, where it's just that hyper focused. And usually it's just, I want to get better at one skill, or I'm, this part of my game is good, but I need a little bit more attention here, as every athlete does with their game. And that can also be found through contacting me at my email at mark@volleybarn.ca.
Awesome, man. Congratulations. Great to see you flourishing. Nice duster, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good, Ballsy. Thanks.
All right, here with the coach of the Regina Thunder, Scott MacAulay. Scott, the smoke hasn't been as challenging as in Jasper, obviously. That's one place. Did you ever go to Jasper in your travels with work or anything like that? I've never been to Jasper, and sadly, I'll have to wait to go again. That's a terrible situation. Have you ever been there?
I've been all over BC and Vancouver and Kelowna and Calgary off the Banff, but when it came to Jasper, I never left Edmonton, so I regret that.
Yeah, me too, man. But anyway, where I was going with this is smoke's kind of come this way as we're getting accustomed to in the summer. Has that affected your training camp at all?
Well, there's been a huge concern about it. There was a couple days where it was kind of touch and go, but we got through last weekend. So we practiced on Friday night, 2 days on Saturday, Sunday, and then that Monday we were unable to practice. But it was actually a good thing because after having 2 days, our guys are pretty beat up, sore, and tired, and so we did like an extended long film session. Then we just went on the field and kind of walked through things and had a chance to clean things up. And I think actually moving forward, we're gonna keep doing that. It was perfect actually.
Yeah, it's good to learn, silver linings that way. And I was going to ask you that. How have things changed? I know from when we played as players, and I'm older than you, things have changed a lot. But from when you started coaching this football team to now, how have you changed in the way you approach training camp, the way you approach, dealing with these athletes and keeping them hydrated and healthy?
Well, a few things like kind of like more a larger support staff that's really working hard to make sure that there's water being delivered throughout all practice, where maybe back in the day you said you just told the guys, hey, jog over to the water station. Now there's like water at their position groups, which is great because they can kind of just grab a water ball whenever they need to throughout their positional indie time, and they don't have to take those kind of breaks, so you're getting a little bit more reps in. And then also I've kind of changed my ways in thinking that we're always want to be on the field, always wanted that. Normally you have your day 1, day 2, day 3, but if I could get a bonus day that week, because maybe you played on a Sunday, now you're playing on a Saturday, now you're playing on a Sunday, I would take that and make sure we can get on the field. And now I don't. I'd rather have that day off for guys to get off and get off their feet, maybe be with their family and friends, or we could use it for film. And film's really changed a lot now too with the drones and stuff. You get good quality game film or practice film, and that's allowed us to do a lot more things off the field and inside the clubhouse.
Do you guys, because we used to meet, now I know I don't want to go back to when I played, but even when you played, we met offensively and defensively. I know in my kid in North Dakota, even Calgary, they're meeting individually with their different groups. Do you guys do that, or just because of your setup there out at your field, Scotty Livingstone Field, do you still just do offense and defense?
Yeah, we're pretty limited with our space. If we could have more rooms, we would definitely use them. But what we'll do is we normally will have special teams from 6 to 6:15, and then during that time, our offensive line will be in the weight room there. And then once special teams is done at 6:15, we'll split into O and D. But our running backs will go into the coach's room. Our offensive line will be in the weight room, and then our receivers and quarterbacks will go into the dressing room. And then the defense always meets together. But then post-practice, what's been happening too is that now with our defense, we'll meet with, say, the front seven one day, and then the next day we'll meet with the back end. So we kind of been able to split it up that way. But there's definitely a lot more film study time being used by the coaches, and we do our best to kind of split it up to the different groups.
So as we look at this football team, it's great. And another thing that's changed, you play preseason games. You're going to have a preseason game with the Calgary Colts here coming up tomorrow in Medicine Hat. What are you looking most forward to in terms of positional group, or what do you want to see from your team? Who cares about wins or losses? But you just what are you looking at for this game?
So some of the areas that I'm super interested in watching is like, one is the quarterback position. We spent a lot of time during the off season working with those guys to kind of improve their arm strength, and also Stefan met with the quarterbacks probably like 10 or 12 times during the off season, go through film and the install. So I'm excited to see the fruits of their labor. And then also with our offensive line, we did graduate 4 guys last year that were starters, and so there's a bunch of guys that have been with the team for a while that now it's their chance to step up, and we also have a few new players that we were able to bring in. Some local guys that maybe were playing at different youth sport programs have now come to us. So I'm excited to see how they all kind of work together. And then the last thing is we had a really strong recruiting year with a lot of young guys. And I'm excited to see those guys get on the field and compete and just see what the young guys can bring to the table.
One of the things I liked about Frank McChrystal, and I like about you too, is you're kind of that way. You have a Rolodex. You know a lot about the guys. So give us some of the names, the new names, the young names that you just alluded to there.
Well, like just yesterday in practice, for example, like we were doing a lot of special teams, and one guy that really stood out of all the returners was Spencer Rempel. And so he's a guy that went to Campbell. He played Team Saskatchewan. He's a defensive back. That's sort of his trait or whatever. So he's going to be getting some returns. I'm excited to see sort of like what he does moving forward here. At the receiver position, we have Tanner Donneville. He's from Miller. And like right now, if we were traveling with a 46-man roster, he would be on it. So he's one of our top 7 receivers, and he seems like a guy that could step in right away and play. And then also yesterday too, like Brady Vindevogel, he's a quarterback from Miller as well, provincial champions. He was slinging it yesterday. We ran our 2-minute offense, and out of all the quarterbacks, he's the guy that moved the ball the smoothest during that time. So I'm excited to see him get out there and sling it. And then also there's another Miller kid, Tristan Rapchuk. He's playing offensive line, and he's a little bit shorter than most other guys on the offensive line. They might be between 6'2", 6'4". He's probably like 6 foot. But this guy is an absolute beast. He's strong, and he might get beat once, but he won't get beat twice. He's just one of those guys that all of a sudden, like, he'll figure out how to beat somebody and use his leverage and stuff to the best of his capabilities. So he's been outstanding during camp, and I can't wait to see sort of him get out there and show his strength and see him compete.
Lastly, what's the strength of this team?
It's the defense. The strength is the defense, the entire defense, and because they're all returning and they're hungry. They had a great offseason in the weight room. Paul Dawson does a great job with teaching them the system, but also with the game plan. So I really feel like the defense is going to be, the spot where we sort of like hang our hat. I also like there's other position groups though too, like running back. Like Rylan Likert was one of the top running backs in the league last year. He's back for his 4th year, and he's going to be a top end running back. But I was telling the guys the other night, I go like, if Rylan Likert, all of a sudden he got sick and we had to put somebody else in, there's 4 other guys that could step in and play right away. Sadiq, Jacob Cordis. There's also Carter Ashman. That's a young guy that's coming to the team right now. Like all these guys, they can play now. And it's going to be interesting to see how Stefan decides to use them.
I'm just going to throw this in there. I'm really looking, I wish it was still calling CFL games, but I'm kind of going back to my roots, calling junior football. I was there for your national championship win, and unfortunately calling the one here that you lost. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this football team this year. It's going to be exciting.
We're excited to have you back, and anytime we can have a local guy there with the passion that you have involved with the club, nothing but great things are going to happen. So we're excited.
Yeah. Safe trip. Have a good preseason game, man. We'll see you on the other side next week.
Thanks a lot.
We'll have to get Thunder President Murad El Khatib to tip over his couch and get some money to get Scott MacAulay a microphone there. kind of breaking up on us there, but we got the gist of it. They're going to play Calgary tomorrow in a preseason game. Hey, I'm a proud sponsor. This Ballsy Uncut and Our Balls Are Bigger, the Ballsy Media Inc. Ballsy Uncut Media Inc. Should get my corporation name right. Very proud to be the sponsor of the U18 AAA Provincial Baseball Tournament, and I'm headed over to the Optimus Field to watch a game between the Saskatoon Cubs and the Regina A's. We'll have some pictures, and next week talk to the team that will be representing Saskatchewan in St. John's, New Brunswick. We're also going to the runner-up team. The team that loses the final goes to the Westerns. Now, a couple of other things to get to. Rasheed Bailey cut by the Toronto Argonauts. Coach Dinwiddie said he likes what Rasheed brought to the table, but it was a ratio / salary cap thing. You wonder if the Bombers will pick up their former receiver since they have a lot of injuries in the receiving core. I know they had signed Lucky Whitehead, who was let go by BC. That's where Lucky started his career. Bailey, of course, was a big contributor for the Bombers in the last stretch, their dynasty-like stretch they've had here over the last 4 years. Bombers playing the Argos coming up here on Saturday. Tonight it's Ottawa against Calgary. I've got the Stamps. I had the Riders yesterday, so I'm 0-1 in Ballsy's best bets, and I was joined by Bubba O'Neill from the Hamilton Tiger Cats audio network. He picked the Riders as well. We both had... He had Ottawa. I have Calgary tonight. We both have Toronto over Winnipeg, and we both picked Hamilton to beat Edmonton, but I changed it. I just bet some money. I picked Edmonton to beat Hamilton and get their first win of the season. So there you go. And some other housekeeping things. I want to thank my sponsors. Ward Tirecraft, 101 Dudney Avenue. Thanks to Michael Barth and the gang for giving me some swag. Got some shirts, a hat. They're sponsoring this show, Ballsy Uncut, 3 times a week, and the Our Balls Are Bigger post-game show. Want to thank District Brewing and their Super Squeeze Seltzer. Two flavors. We got the mango lime and the passion fruit lime, and they're at Saskatchewan liquor stores, so thanks to them for getting on board. And I also want to thank Paul Waldo, who's just gotten on board. He is going to sponsor the Our Balls Are Bigger post-game show. Paul is in the real estate game, very successful like he was in football, 3-time Grey Cup champ, local football legend in Regina, went to Labolas, played for the Thunder, played for the Huskies, now is coaching the Huskies part-time while working in the real estate game, coaching Crew, his son's flag football team, and he's been joining me off and on this podcast as well, but he is stepping up to the plate, and he's going to help be a sponsor for the shirts I've got coming out, the Our Balls Are Bigger shirts. Are you interested in shirts, folks? Hopefully you are. You can DM me your size. I'll try to get you a shirt. DM me at Ballsy Uncut. And with that in mind, I got to say this, okay? I am not going to be doing a show Monday or Wednesday next week. We're going to line one up Friday, and then we've got the Our Balls Are Bigger postgame show. For a good chunk of next week, I'm busy in training. I'm working a part-time job. When this life change happened, you can get bitter or you can get better. And so I have been working part-time with the great group over at Rancherlo. They've got a great staff at Rancherlo, a bunch of different locations in Regina. And I am going in to do some extra training. So I can, I'm a casual worker there, but you got to have some training dealing with the, these kids that are troubled youth. And they're troubled for a reason because they come from a tough background, and I can't go into it. But, man, I've learned a lot on this job about the people that work with these kids and about the kids and the lives they have. And sometimes wins and losses and job losses don't really mean much when you walk a mile in somebody else's shoes. So I will not be here on Monday and Wednesday. We will have one on Friday, and we will have our Balls Are Bigger post-game show. That's going to do it for today's episode. You can catch it back in replay on X, Facebook, YouTube. You can also catch it wherever you get podcasts a little later on when I post. But for now, I'm going to step aside and head off to Optimist Field and watch the U18 AAA Saskatchewan Provincial Baseball Tourney. It's at Optimist Field and Curry Field all weekend long. If you want a tournament schedule, you can go to Ballsy Uncut. A couple of posts down, I posted the tournament schedule there. Thanks for your time. Thanks for checking us out. And remember, around here, our balls are bigger.